is China, from the bottom of the heart, welcoming foreign investors?
I think the commitment is still there. Actually, last year we were the largest recipient of foreign investment into China. And still we keep the level above the 100 billion US dollars. So which is really not an easy job given the global picture of economic growth. And it's just China is getting more selective, I should say. It's not really restrictive by say, unrolling the structural reform in which the foreign investment can get best fitted in. For example, more of the foreign investment are encouraged in the service sector, and while in those labor-intensive and the resource-intensive, particularly those the environmentally unfriendly businesses are not really welcomed.
Are foreign investors adjusting their own operations well to these new Chinese policies and the new negative list, Professor Shankar?
Remains to be seen. I should add that, I agree with the previous speaker that the level of foreign investment in China remains, very high, but there are definitely clear signals that this may change. For example, if you look into the various Chamber of Commerce surveys, the one from the US, the one from the EU, a separate one from UK and Germany, they will show you that China is no longer the undisputed #1 destination for foreign investment. Keep in mind also that there is increasing competition going forward, for instance, from India. And therefore, I think that there is definitely the hope that through these changes or through the establishment of these zones, China will remain, perhaps the first priority for a foreign investment, which will enable China to really pick and choose, to become more selective.
All right. But Professor Liu, I think what you have just said, interestingly, is that China's desire is not to become the biggest and the largest attractor of foreign investment, but rather the quality of investment coming from investors overseas has to be high. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Actually, I had a conversation with the mayor of Suzhou, and he said 15 years ago, I was virtually standing on my knees to back those foreign investment, but now I have to buy them out because they are a number of them are not really there to contribute to the quality of the growth. Instead, they hire too many workers and they produce too much pollution, so therefore I invite them out. And actually now you can see that, we have a number of foreign companies who are really moving out and migrating to those underdeveloped areas and underdeveloped countries even. But in the meantime, we are attracting quality ones.
We hope that is the case, particularly whether this 122 different categories of negative list are inviting enough for the kind of quality investment which you have been talking about.
It is actually, in addition to the more transparent environment we are setting up, and we also have now the registration system instead of the approval system, and also we are also offering the most favored treatment, national treatment with say pre-establishment, and now a number of stamp shops are being eliminated. So with all this, I think it's a combined force to be more selective, but also to be more receptive to the
As
foreign
you just
investment.
mentioned, Professor Liu, going back to you, Professor Shankar, that is the purpose of, at least on paper, according to the government, the free trade zones. Now we have Guangdong, for example, Tianjin, and also Fujian. These, together with Shanghai, they are supposed to streamline the overloaded administrative approval process and also focus on innovation and internationalization. The question, though, many ask, Professor Shankar, you probably have more insights than I do, is whether to have, quote, special zones now will be able to change all of these issues and change it efficiently, Professor.
This is a very good question. I mean, I believe that indeed the primary purpose of these special zones is indeed not entirely different than what the objective was when China's very first special economic zones were established in 1979-80. And this is basically to experiment and learn. However, I also see a certain political objective in here. And if you look at the location, I believe that this is definitely a signal to the people of Hong Kong, and this is also a signal to the people of Taiwan. I should also say that there is one potentially negative byproduct from those, and that is that they may actually accentuate the gap, the differences between the very developed region and those that are less developed, because the kind of investment that the mayor of Suzhou does not want to see is going to move into the hinterland where they will appreciate the employment, but eventually are we simply exporting, say, pollution to other parts of the country?
Okay. Will these zones be able to test out the best solutions to some of the biggest problems and challenges that we are facing these days in our economy? Secondly, if ever tested out these solutions, will they be viable also to the less developed or even more developed areas in China to adopt? And thirdly, what about this time difference, as there is already such a huge urgency that we all feel, everyone in China feel, about what need to get better next day, the day after the next. So the three questions, which is all combined about efficiency.
That's why we are still having a test. So of course, I think we had initial success in Shanghai, and therefore we set up the 3 additional zones to really to spread the success story. And in the meantime, they combined to share the same negative list, showing that we are now integrating the different type of experiment. And now the hinterland areas, particularly the middle range of the Yangtze River, are looking forward to have the same type of policy. So this is really there. I think it's clear that the government want to have this test and spread not only in those zones, but also spread across China with all the success one we have experiment.